Hello, colleagues. I decided to look for a more recent article by Galton to see how his previous assumptions on peace, which we read on his articles from the 90s and 80s, carry on to today's world problems. This article, published in 2015 by the Brown Journal of World Affairs, is titled Peace Journalism and Reporting on the United States. Overall, in this article, Galton makes a health analogy comparing the U.S. foreign policy with addiction for victory. This is victory is a disease and conflict resolution is the cure. To Galton, the U.S. has a pathological need for being on top, and this is affecting relationships with the world. The more the U.S. wants to stay on top, the more hatred it generates around the world. To counteract the associated violence, Galton, who is a mathematician too, proposes the following formula for peace. Galton's formula for conflict mentality, which equals peace, begins with cooperation with equity, harmony through empathy to understand the party's legitimate goals, conciliation for traumas to reduce the desire for revenge. Here he talks about how the U.S. should compensate countries where it has engaged in war. We can argue that the U.S. already has programs compensating countries such as Afghanistan and Iraq. But that's his argument here. So, solutions for conflicts to reduce aggression, that's part of this equation. On the other hand, Galton believes that the U.S. formula for peace is unfit to achieve the very goals it has set itself for or is striving for. Galton calls it a deep culture script for freedom and victory that is blocking peace building around the world. In this article, also Galton provides a table where he outlines most of the current foreign policy issues the U.S. is engaging around the world. And he has a column for conflict solutions. He calls it a constructive orientation, and also a column for victory orientation, which he says is destructive. And that victory orientation basically explains the U.S. foreign policy. Galton points at the model of health journalism as a way to reporting on U.S. led conflicts around the world. Diagnosis, prognosis, cautionary measures, and therapy, all that should be done by the peace journalist. And therapy in this sense means solutions against U.S. deep culture script for victory. So that's part of what the reporter needs to do in order to engage in a peace journalism approach to reporting on U.S. foreign policy. The model of health journalism, and this quote is interesting to me because he talks about how the journalist must be skilled and ambitious in solution indicative reporting. So it's not an easy task, and the only thing that comes to my hand is that he's making an analogy here of health. So the journalist is a sort of healthcare practitioner, if you will. Not only the reporting needs to change and the understanding of U.S. foreign policy, but also he talks about that in order to accelerate peace, changes in culture and changes in theology also needs to happen. He talks about reinterpretation of Christianity, televisions and movie narrative shifting from victorious to solution peace building. Peace education is part of this process, and all that he sees peace journalism as key in accelerating these changes. Something missing from previous articles because they were old is the internet as a vehicle for accelerating peace, and Galton sees it as important. He believes that through the internet we can spread reality rather than media created realism. So there is some autonomy here when it comes to the user and finding the truth through online or the internet. In summary, Galton makes a critical analysis of U.S. foreign policy and its effect on violence. He concludes that peace journalism must report on both violence and peace and the complexities in between. Thank you.